So I'm Lauren Alvarez, like Aaron said. I love working with Oklahoma Family Network because it's so practical. I'm all about being practical. I'm all about um, making sure that people get resources that they need because being a parent, being a caregiver, just being a human being is exhausting. So today we're going to talk about compassion fatigue, which is basically a fancy word for burnout. When you are a parent or when you are someone who works with people who need you, that you are having to take care of. Professionally, I'm a school counselor. I also was an LPC therapist. I had like a small, saw clients after my school day was done. And I take care of a lot of people and I'm a mom. So there's so many things that are pulling us in a lot of different directions. So I think it's really good to take a minute to stop and check in with ourselves because no one is going to take care of us necessarily if we don't take care of ourselves. So that a lot of us feel like that's selfish, but it's not. I can't help other people if I don't have anything left to give. So, we'll talk about strategies for prevention, understanding compassion fatigue, and we'll even take a little test that tells you what your score is, what you're at risk for, so that you know, hey, do I need to make a plan? Do I not need to make a plan? So, like Erin said, I am Lauren Alvarez, but I have a lot of roles. I'm a human, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter. I'm a daughter whose mother now lives with her. My 83-year-old mom lives with us now. I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm a counselor, I'm a parent educator. These are a lot of different roles. Every one of these roles has responsibilities. And so if I'm out of balance in an area of my life, someone's going to suffer. No one can do these things for me. So if I want to have enough of myself to actually share and care about others, I have to be very thoughtful about also taking care of myself. So this is more than just self-care. It's really taking a logical look at how I'm doing. And that's sometimes a score, like an actual survey, and the scores you get back can kind of be a wake-up call. Last week, Oklahoma Family Network, I got to talk for them at a youth council, and we talked about mindful self-compassion, and that had a little survey. And scores are really important to help you realize where are you at. So we'll kind of do some of those things. So tonight we'll kind of talk about compassion fatigue. What is it? Take a little survey. And then two strategies that are going to help you keep from burning out are understanding your circle of control. There's a whole class that we do on circle of control, but this is just a shortened version of that, as well as how to set healthy boundaries. There's a whole class we could do and have done on boundaries, but this is just a shortened version because those are two really important things that will help you keep from burning out. So, what is compassion fatigue? Compassion fatigue is something that happens when caregivers, helpers, teachers, parents were overwhelmed by stresses stemming from the clinical, like the actual work, or interpersonal components of the role. So, sometimes like when I was a therapist, I was dealing with people who had significant trauma, or who were in crisis. So that was part of my clinical job. Then sometimes there's those interpersonal components, like I'm a caregiver for my mom, I'm a caregiver for my children, I'm a caregiver for my partner. So if I feel overwhelmed and stressed by those roles, compassion fatigue is often called the cost of caring for others for their emotional pain because I want to help other people. I want to relieve their suffering. But by relieving their suffering, I have to be in touch with their suffering. I have to experience some of their suffering to have true compassion. Caregivers often experience what's called secondary trauma, where which is also the cost of caring. Secondary trauma is when someone else has been through a significant trauma, and then I hear their story and it can traumatize me. A secondary trauma if I'm not careful, if I don't keep those emotional boundaries up. And that's a challenge. because when I have empathy towards another person and their suffering, I don't want to seem like they're over there and I'm over here. I want to be able to sit with them without absorbing all of that trauma into myself. And so that is a special skill set that we have to be careful about. Your work is meaningful and necessary, but it can lead to emotional exhaustion when you really want to help people, but then all the stress about it is so emotionally exhausting that you're like, I just don't even care anymore. That would be what we call burnout or compassion fatigue. And if we don't take care of ourselves, it will happen. It's pretty much a guarantee if we don't take care of ourselves. And this then leads us to feeling guilty about feeling like we don't want to help. So if we're not careful and we get so stressed out and so overwhelmed that we go into the burnout phase, compassion fatigue phase, then not only do we feel burnout, then we feel bad about feeling burnout and not wanting to help people and just leave me alone. I don't want to help anyone else. I know a lot of you, if you have young children, you pretty much feel that way every day at bedtime. But, sometimes we can't escape our situation. It might be a family member. It might be a child who not only has needs as a child, but might have special needs that take a lot of extra time and energy and money and all those things. So that's what compassion fatigue is, the cost of caring. So here's what I know about you. You care, you love, you want to help. This is the cost of caring, and we can help with that cost. All right. And this is such a true statement. The expectation that we can be immersed in suffering and loss daily and not be touched by it at all is as unrealistic as expecting to walk through water without getting wet. You will get wet. You will experience the suffering of others when we are helping others. To think that we won't be impacted by it, that's unrealistic. Um, Going into that, now that doesn't mean I avoid helping, but I need to go in with that awareness so that I can protect myself while I am helping other people. That's not selfish. Now, I've referred to the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system in multiple classes that we've done because it applies to multiple classes that we've done. When we're talking about teaching emotional regulation in young children, we need to understand these systems. When we're talking about dealing with anger in the family or creating connections and understanding where a child is at or a human is at in their nervous system, all of this is helpful. When it comes to you being a caregiver, you have to realize that my personal nervous system, as well as the nervous system of the people that I'm helping, it kind of has these two sides. So the sympathetic nervous system, that's the reactive part. Okay. So this prepares you to deal with an intense situation, whether you're going to fight or run away or freeze. This is like we're getting ready to go. We're getting ready to help. When we are in this part of our nervous system, our heart beats fast. We tend to have shorter, shallower breaths. Our pupils in our eyes expand. The gut, your tummy area, you can get stomach aches and tummy aches because blood leaves the stomach area, moves out to the arms and legs and those kind of necessary muscles to prepare us to fight or run away. Hormones rush through our bodies that are stress hormones to give us that extra adrenaline and cortisol that help us be ready to go. And it takes a lot of energy to stay in our sympathetic nervous system. Now, if we working with people who need us desperately, um, who who might have experienced trauma or might have special needs, or we might be in the middle of a crisis and we're helping them in the middle of a crisis. If we're not careful, we can get stuck in our sympathetic nervous system where we are so ramped up with all of these stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol that we never get to relax unless we're doing things on purpose to do that. The parasympathetic nervous system is the other part of our nervous system, which is the calm down part. When I am in my parasympathetic nervous system, my heart is beating slow and normally. I have deep, full breaths. My gut, my tummy area is active, so my food will digest and I don't feel nervous like butterflies in my stomach. I have extra blood flow to my gut, my lungs, my brain, so everything is working like it's supposed to. And then I have other kinds of hormones that go through my body, things like oxytocin and serotonin and endorphins and dopamine, all the feel good chemicals. And when I am in my parasympathetic nervous system, that doesn't take a lot of energy. I mean, my body's in a relaxed state. So, when you are a caregiver, if we are not careful, the people that we are trying to help often are in their sympathetic nervous system, the reactive part, and we can get stuck there. So we have to do things on purpose to make sure we also are into our parasympathetic nervous system. Now, here's a silly thing that I teach kids because I believe teaching kids about their brain and what state their brain is and stuff helps them overcome feeling overwhelmed. I point out to them, okay, guys, you want to know a trick? Let's say you're in your fight or flight. Now, what does it say? What's your breath like when you're in your parasympathetic nervous system? It says your breath is full and slow. Did you know that if you actually, on purpose, take deep breaths or maybe do some box breathing or some special kind of calm down breathing, you are starting to trick your nervous system to think, oh, it's time to calm down. I have deep, full breaths. I'm going to slow my heartbeat down. I'm going to have all those feel good chemicals going through my body. Like you can trick your body to start going into the calm down response. So, but you need to understand what's going on in your body. If you are constantly stuck in the sympathetic nervous system, that's where you can experience burnout because it takes so much energy to keep you there, just on alert at all times, that your body just can't maintain that level of stress. Here's what compassion fatigue looks like. You might be feeling sadness and grief, avoidance or dread of working with some clients, the reduced ability to feel empathy towards patients or students or your own family. It's kind of like, I don't care. I mean, that's your problem. Somatic complaints, that means physical complaints, like you're feeling aches in your body or headaches or I get what I call Frankenstein neck, where my neck freezes up. Or my eyelid starts twitching when I am under a lot of stress. So as soon as I see feel my eyelids start twitching, I'm like, oh, my body's telling me I better make sure I get enough sleep tonight. I better go do something to calm. You might develop addictions in an attempt to numb the pain and numb these overwhelming emotions. Maybe I'm going to drink a little bit. Maybe I'm going to overeat, for that comfort. Maybe I'm going to, smoke marijuana for the purpose of getting high. Maybe I'm going to dabble in different, prescription drugs or illegal drugs just to not have to feel. You might have nightmares, frequent use of sick days. You have to be careful if you're like, oh, I just need a mental health day. We need mental health days, but if you feel like you want to call in sick every day, that can be a problem. You might wind up having a change in your belief system, or expectations or assumptions. Maybe you are so stressed out that you can't believe if you have a strong religious belief system, how can bad things be happening in the world? It makes you question everything. You might feel detached, just kind of, I don't want to get close to people. You might have a decreased intimacy. So a lot of couples, if you have a romantic partner, it takes a lot of energy to be romantically involved and sexually involved with your partner. And you might pull back on the intimacy because it's just, I can't, that takes too much energy. I'm sorry, I don't have any energy to give. You might have racing thoughts, a feeling of numbness, health concerns. You might have palpitations in your heart or, high blood pressure or things like that. You might have decreased creativity. It's hard to even be creative or spontaneous. You might feel lonely. And then you might feel guilty. You might feel guilty for having decreased intimacy. You might feel guilty for wanting to avoid clients that you don't want to work with, or even members of your own family, or even your own child. You might feel guilty about wanting to call in sick. Guilt, whew, that's a tough one. So if I just described a lot of how you are feeling, you might be, struggling with compassion fatigue. Now, that doesn't mean it's a permanent condition, but be aware of what that is. Okay, so I had you guys do a little quiz. So let me make sure that I pull this up and I'm going to put it in the chat section again. Um, okay, so if you, let me stop my share and start again. Give me just a second. That way I can see when you guys have a thumbs up. Um, if you have finished taking the survey, I want you to put it a little in the chat section. I'm done. If you still need to take it, put a link in the chat section that you can finish. But I'm not sure who already finished because we had a lot of people do this while we were kind of waiting for other people to join. So as soon as you are done with this little survey, I want you to click I'm done. Okay. And that lets me know how much time to have for this. You can scan the QR code or click on the link in the chat section. Let's see. All right. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to um, kind of keep going to kind of explain this. So we have time. We only have 30 more minutes to kind of go through everything. So I'm going to share my scores with you. That's one thing I like about this is at the end of taking it, it will actually list out your scores in three areas. Compassion satisfaction is like the pleasure you get from doing your work well. So like you really like to help others, that's your compassion satisfaction. So I score high on that, a 45, but that's how I am right now with the extra things that I've put in place in my life. So I really do like helping people. For burnout, that would be feelings of hopelessness and difficulty in dealing with work or doing the job effectively. You're just kind of done. My burnout score is a 19. So that shows that I'm in the low range for burnout. So right now, I'm not at risk of burnout with whatever my workload is or my coping skills for managing that. And then the third thing that it measures is secondary traumatic stress. And that is when you are exposed to other people's trauma, to other people's problems, to other people's issues. Um, if you absorb that and it's almost like you are traumatized from working with other people who have trauma. My secondary traumatic stress score is also low. It's a 17. So I'm at a low rate for traumatic stress. So right now, my scores are in a good, healthy range. When I first took this survey when I was in graduate school, I graduated from my master's. I started back to getting my master's in counseling in 2016. What a crazy intense time. I don't know how I did that, working full-time grad school, all the things. But my scores were I had very big compassion satisfaction. I love helping others, but my burnout and my secondary traumatic stress scores were pretty high. Um, Putting in some protective things in place has really, really helped me to where I'm not at risk for burnout. And you might look at some of your life experiences and realize that sometimes life is preparing you for this. One of the things that helped me, even though it hurt me along the way, is my family went through a divorce. I was married in my first marriage. We'd been married for 15 years. And so I had to learn just to survive. I had to learn that, hey, I can't worry about everything that might be happening when they're with their dads. I can't control that. All I can control is my home environment, my attitude, my emotional availability for my boys. And if I spend all my time stressing out about what's happening, because I couldn't control that, then when they would be with me, I didn't have the energy for them. So just some of I didn't want to develop those skills through that not very exciting life experience. I don't know anyone who just loves going through a divorce, but I did develop those skills so I could survive and like thrive and not feel stressed out all the time. That's really helped me as a caregiver too. I love my students. I love my families. I love my clients when I was doing therapeutic work, but I could not control their lives. I could only control what I could control. So that circle of control that we'll talk about in a little bit, that's really saved me. So I can be 100% all in, engaged, loving, authentic, available, but I'm not going to think about stuff at home that I can't change by just thinking about it. I'm going to give what I can give, but I'm not responsible for fixing all the problems. It took me years to get to that understanding. That's why my burnout scores and my secondary trauma scores are lower, because I had to develop the skills of what's in my control, what's out of my control. Um, so, as you're looking at your scores, oh yeah, that is a little harder. As you look, when you're doing it from your phone, it's a little harder to read. As you look at your scores, think, that's just your awareness. I was surprised that my burnout and my secondary traumatic stress was high when I first took this years ago because I'm like, but I like helping people. It doesn't matter if I like helping people. I have to take care of myself so I can help people. All right. So if your scores show that you're at high risk for burnout or high risk for secondary traumatic stress, that's a great thing to make you like wake up. Okay. If I want to keep being a good helper, I need to make sure I'm taking care of myself. Um, so, all right. Does anyone want to add anything to in the chat section or have any questions about what their scores might mean? Now will be the chance before I kind of go on and move into skills to help you. So if you've got a question, feel free to put that in the chat section or whatever you would like. All right, we will keep on moving. Now remember, compassion satisfaction is the pleasure you get from doing your work well. Burnout, feelings of hopelessness and helplessness or difficulty getting your job done effectively. You just don't have anything left. This would be someone stuck in their sympathetic nervous system. Secondary traumatic stress is how much exposure to other people's trauma has been affecting you. And we can go through seasons where we are more stressed out because of other people's stress. Okay. So what can I do? Looking at your scores, that should help you understand where you are. All right. I know everybody says these kinds of things, but this is so important, especially if you had high burnout or secondary traumatic stress scores. Eating well balanced meals. I know I was talking with one of you before, I will not name you, but like remembering to eat, that can really help with burnout. Eating well balanced meals. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have your sweet treats and things like that. But I know I feel best if I actually make my, lunch the night before and then I don't run out of time to make food for myself for lunch. But eating well balanced meals, getting enough sleep. So your brain never gets to completely turn off. But at night, if you are not getting enough sleep, your brain never gets that chance to calm down, to process all the things that you've experienced during the day. The way that our brains work is the brain's job is to take in all this information, sensory information, sight, smell, sound, touch, taste, as well as inside our body, there are all sorts of systems that are automatically going. Our body is automatically aware of my body temperature. It's telling my heart to beat. It's aware of, if I'm feeling dizzy or out of balance. I have so many systems going on in my body at the same time. And your brain's job is to take all that information from your five senses and from inside your own body that you're not even paying attention to. It's supposed to decide what do I need to focus on, what's important, what's not important. And that's how your brain kind of acts like a filter, especially for your five senses, this what things you can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. Now, when your brain is tired, it's like think about yourself if you get into a super loud, noisy environment and you're just like, I just, I can't take this anymore. That's how your brain feels when it's tired. It still has to do its job. All that sensory, five senses information, it doesn't stop entering. It's still coming at you, but your brain isn't able to filter it. And so that's when things can, like, one little thing can just feel like it's too much because your brain's too tired to do its job. So getting enough sleep is huge. Exercising for that, just stress relief and stress control. And that can just be like walking your dog or things like that. Practicing relaxation techniques like deep breathing, um, working in some sort of daily things. And I will follow up with a lot of different handouts and options, as well as a link. I'll send a link to the presentation I just did last week on self-compassion that could be helpful. Avoiding alcohol and non-prescription drugs. If you're using those things for to escape. It does not mean that you can't drink alcohol. But if I'm using that as a coping mechanism, then I need to avoid that. Getting a massage can be helpful. Talking with a therapist, a psychiatrist, a family doctor, or another professional can be really helpful. Sometimes we want to go to a friend. And if they're our only source of someone to talk to, they can get burnout from talking to us too much. It doesn't mean that they don't care, but like, they're not designed to absorb all of that, as well as using circle of control strategies and healthy boundaries. So those two things are what I'm going to talk to you about right now. These other things, well-balanced meals, getting enough sleep, that just takes some time. So if you're like me, then you're like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And then 2 weeks from now, you're like, forget it, I can't do that. That's not what I recommend. Give yourself, pick one thing to work on this month. Maybe I'm going to work on getting more sleep. Okay, got that down. Next month, I'm going to keep getting enough sleep and I'm going to work a little bit more on eating balanced meals. Great, got that done. 3 months from now, I'm going to work in some exercise. You can't make these changes overnight if you want them to be more permanent. But these relaxation techniques like deep breathing, they're so powerful and it's hard to imagine how powerful they are. I, when I was a single mom, they were doing these Laureate Institute for Brain Research, which is an organization in Tulsa. It's amazing. You can actually call up. They have all sorts of like research studies going on, and you get paid. My only motivation for doing this research study is because I was going to make $50 an hour when I was in the MRI machine. That was my only motivation was, oh, it's a research study and I get paid. And I was a teacher, so I was off in the summer. So sure, I'll do that. And it was a research study that was our job was we had to list our 10 happiest memories. So I had to look pretty far back for some of those because I was being a single parent. There had been a lot more unhappy memories recently. So 10 happiest memories. And then when you were in the MRI machine, it had this little bar graph that went up and down. The MRI machine was measuring the blood flow to the part of your brain associated with happiness and calm and peaceful types of feelings. So the goal was if the blood flow was below the goal, then you had to concentrate on your happiest memories, and you could watch that blood flow go up right in front of your eyes. It was really cool. So I would think about the first time Austin walked, and I would think about that really funny time that my son Dylan crawled, and his first time crawling and the look on his face when he was doing that. And I would see the blood flow increase to the part of my brain associated with happiness. When you're stressed out, when you're depressed, when you're overwhelmed, that part of your brain associated with calm and peaceful feelings, it's completely out of shape. The part of your brain that's associated with got to get it done, go, 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 that is very active. But that part of my brain was completely out of shape. By me just focusing, and it was once a week for 4 weeks, me just focusing on those happy memories, watching the blood flow grow up. At the end of the session, the research study, I went into the research study meeting the qualifications for being clinically depressed. I left the research study no longer depressed, not because my problems went away, but because I was doing things as a part of the study that were good for my brain. that forced my body into its parasympathetic nervous system. And it was just part of the research study. So these deep breathing techniques and stuff like that, they really work on a brain level. It's not just someone saying, "Ah, you don't understand my stress." I do understand your stress. I don't want you to stay stuck in your reactive nervous system. I want you to actually exercise your calm down nervous system. Okay. So, now two strategies, circle of control and healthy boundaries. Let's spend a little time talking about that. All right. So there's a whole nother class that Oklahoma Family Network that I've taught for them on circle of control. So in your handouts, whenever you get that email with this presentation, we'll also include a link to the circle of control presentation because you could spend, it's another hour class. I definitely recommend watching it, but this is just a brief summary. Okay. So I want you to take a minute to write down some of the different things in your life that you are worried about or stressed out about. So kind of write those down or think about them. Just take 30 seconds to do that. Okay. Things that you are stressed out about. Yes, Sarah, you asked, is that class on YouTube? Yes, it's on the Oklahoma Family Network YouTube channel, but I'll make sure that I send that link too in case you can't find it. Okay. So, all right, write down, put it in your phone, whatever, or just think, what are some of the things that you are stressed out or worried about? This is my last week of school, so my list is pretty long right now. Okay. Now, thinking about circle of control. Okay. So you just listed things that you're stressed out about. Now we're gonna take all those things and we're gonna filter them through this circle of control. It's also called locus of control theory. Okay. So first we have to know the different layers of the circle. Okay. So a circle of concern, that's this gray outside area. Okay. These are all the circumstances, issues, problems that have an impact on my life, but I have zero control over those. No matter what I do in my life, I can't change those things. They still have an impact on me. Nothing I can do can change those things. Okay. The blue circle is called our circle of influence. So these are all those situations and problems and issues that they affect me, and I can have some influence there. Like I can, if I change a few things in my life, it might make things better in this area, or it could make things worse in this area. I still can't fully control it, but I can have some influence on it. For example, bedtime with children. I cannot force my child to go to bed with a happy attitude and no problems. I can't magically make that happen. Now, if I have a bedtime routine, that increases my influence that bedtime's going to go better. If I have zero bedtime routine and it's just go to bed and they're like, wait, what? I just had sugar. I don't have, then my behavior can make that area potentially worse. I still can't control that child, but there's things I could do that could make it better or could make it worse. I can't control how my husband feels about me, but there's certain behaviors that I could do that could increase the chances that things, go well between us, or it could increase the chances that we fight more. So again, I can't control this blue area, circle of influence, but I have some influence in that area. Now, the circle of control, that's the circumstances, issues, and problems that I do have control over. So here are some examples. This outside circle of concern, things that there's nothing I can do to change it. My past decisions, choices, and behavior. Already done. I can't change that. If public transportation is on time, and if you live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, it is not. My son lives in Boston and he doesn't have a car. He rides the train, the bus system there, and he can't control if it's on time or not. The outcome of a court case, I can't control that. A sports match, I can't control that. The media, how much stock a store has, how much clothing they have in stock or anything. Celebrities' behaviors or opinions. strangers' comments on social media, cyber threats, strangers' behavior or driving habits. Just drive in Oklahoma. I cannot control their driving habits. The economy or the price of things in the economy, how much traffic there is, where I was born, a death in the family, government policies, the threat of war, world peace, the weather. These are all things that definitely can have an impact on my life. There's not a single thing I personally can do to change those things. Now, in the context, in this circle of control, circle of concern, other people's choices or behavior. When I became a single mom, there was nothing I could do that I could control my former partner's choices and behavior. Nothing. Now, I could think about it, I could stress about it, I could worry about it. None of that was going to change someone else's behavior. And at first, that's where I was spending about 80% of my time. What's he doing? So, yeah, are the boys okay? Literally, I was spending all my emotions and all my emotional energy on something that I couldn't change. No matter how much I thought about it, no matter how much I, worried about it, it was literally not going to change anything. So I was keeping myself really worked up in my sympathetic nervous system and spending all that energy over stuff I had zero control over. Okay. Now, this blue area, the circle of influence, where I can't control it, but I can impact it. Other people's actions. I can't control other people's actions, but I can set up boundaries. I can have good classroom management. I can have good parenting discipline controls. I can have good boundaries at work that I might be able to influence other people's actions. Other people, my productivity at work. I can't control what's going to happen in my day as a school counselor, but if I keep lists and stuff, I might be able to get some things done. Whether or not people like me, I can't control that, but how I behave could maybe influence that. I might be more an emotionally safe person or not. My children's future, again, I can't control that, but there are things I can put in place that can filter out negative influences and increase the chances that they're going to, have a more positive future. Where I work, who I vote for. I can't control who I vote for because I don't get to choose who's on the ballot. I can't control that. But I can vote and increase the chances of the person I want to be there. How much my partner loves me. Again, I can't control my husband's emotions, but there's certain ways I can behave that make it easier to love me. Whether or not I get promoted, my reputation, who follows me on social media, my commitments, like how many things I'm signed up to do, other people's thoughts. These are things that I can't control, but my behavior could have an influence on these things. Here is what's actually in our control: my thoughts, the words that come out of my mouth, my actions and behavior. That is my responsibility. My reactions. I can't control what someone else says to me, but I can manage my reaction to what they say, my decisions and choices, my attitude and mindset, my mood, my work ethic. That is what is in my control. Now, where a lot of us spend our time is on all these things that are outside of our control. And we worry and we stress and we fuss and we talk and we complain, and it's not going to change a thing. And we ignore what we do have control over: my thoughts, my words, my actions and behavior, my reactions, my decisions and choices, my attitude, my mood, my work ethic. That's what I actually have control over. Okay. So you might now take a look at those things that you listed as your things that are stress, your stresses, your things that worry you, things that are stressing you out. And I want you to take each item. Where does it go? Is that thing that you listed, is that part of the circle of concern? I can't change it no matter what I do. Is that part of the circle of influence? I can have a little bit of influence there, but I still can't control it. Or is that directly in your control? So kind of take a minute to put those in their proper category. Okay. Now that you've done that, where are you spending your time? Is it in your circle of concern, your circle of control, or your circle of influence? Because here's what happens. Um, if you spend all your time in areas that you can't control, you're keeping yourself stressed out. So me as a school counselor, I had a actually had a really rough day today. I mean, I discovered some pretty disturbing information and I've got to make some pretty intense parent phone calls as a result of that. However, what can I control? Can I control that it happened? Nope. Can I control other people's behavior? Nope. Now I have some influence on environment and things that could be preventive or helpful or, good ways to respond to those things. But I can't control that. So when I go home from my job right here today, sitting at this desk talking to you, I'm not thinking about those things because I can't even talk to anybody because I'm not at school. So I'm going to spend my time reacting and responding to those things tomorrow when I'm at school. I can't lose sleep over that tonight. I can't worry about that tonight because if I do worry about it, I'm literally giving away my evening to something that I can't control. Does that mean I don't care? Nope. I deeply care. I deeply love the kids and the teachers and the people that I work with. But I can't control that. So I'm not going to sit and worry about it because my worrying about it does nothing. Not one thing. Can't change it at all. That has saved my life, focusing on what I can and cannot control. When we're no longer able to change a situation, we're challenged to change ourselves. All right. So make adjustments where you can. If you focus all your concerns on things that are in the circle of out of the circle of control, what I can actually control, you will literally feel overwhelmed and helpless all the time. If you put our time and energy into your circle of influence, like changing some things to influence that circle or my circle of control, what I'm actually in charge of, I'm actually going to feel empowered, energized, and more peaceful. If I can't change my circumstances, there's no point investing my time and energy in those things. Even with things we can't change, I can still make adjustments that bring me peace. Um, make adjustments where they count. Sometimes that's changing your habits or behavior or getting better skills that will increase your influence. The two areas I've really, really worked on for me that have increased my influence is my communication skills and my self-care, like mindfulness skills. Those have been two big areas of growth. Change your attitude toward the problems that you have no control over. Learn to accept the problems and live with them even if we don't like them. If I get so worried about it's not fair, you are absolutely right. It isn't fair. Can I change it? Nope. So do I want to keep complaining that it's not fair? It's not fair. You are 100% right. It's not fair. People will get away with doing stuff. It's not fair. But what can I do to make sure I'm okay? That's the tricky part. I'm not going to focus on what isn't fair. I'm going to focus on how can I get better at managing my feelings that are valid and real and understandable about this thing that is not fair, that has hurt me. It doesn't mean I pretend it doesn't exist. It just means I don't spend all my energy thinking and looking at that thing that I can't change. I'm going to take that same amount of energy thinking and looking at things that are going to help me feel, manage all my big feelings about that. Okay. So you sometimes have to change your expectations. Your expectations are linked to feelings of happiness. So if my expectation is that this is going to be perfect or whatnot, that's what's leading to me to feel frustrated. Change my expectations about things. Be more realistic. Logistics. Be picky about your schedule. Simplify wherever you can. Um, it is loving to say no. You're allowed to say no. Support. Connect to your village. Know the kind of people who actually feel like they're helpful support. Don't go to that person who can't give you what you need because they might not be able to do that. That's one thing I love about Oklahoma Family Network is like they connect people to resources. That's what they do. They're a really good organization to have in your corner. Mindfulness. I want to build new pathways, build stronger connections in my brain, the part of my brain associated with calming down. So I'll have some handouts that I send, like family mindfulness schedules that you can work into your daily routines. And choose things that bring you joy without the guilt. All right, does this bring you joy? Great. Does this bring you joy? Nope. All right, I'm done with that. banish this whole idea of, well, I should like this. Says who? You don't have to like everything because you should like it. That's okay. Choose things that bring you joy. All right. Okay. So, and we will keep going just for the sake of time. For this mindfulness stuff, just I want you to understand that it doesn't have to mean that you spend an hour a day with deep breathing and yoga. All right. It can take a minute of your day. For example, I have a family member who works with drug and alcohol people facing drug and alcohol addiction. And so they always talk about this mindfulness strategy of grounding. Grounding means I'm going to, instead of worrying about all these things that are happening, I'm just going to focus right here and right now, what is in front of me. What's one thing I can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch? The part of your brain that thinks about what if, or thinks about what's happened or what might happen is very different from the part of your brain that's focused on what's happening right in front of me. One thing I can see, hear, smell, taste, touch, my five senses. So he always told people, hey, make sure you do your grounding exercises, your focus on the here and now, but he wasn't really doing it for himself. So he set his watch to beep every hour on the hour. So, like at 1 o'clock, it would buzz, and that was his reminder. Oh, I'm just going to take 1 minute. Something I can see, hear, smell, taste, touch. Okay, continue about my day. 2 o'clock, it buzzed. Okay, I'm going to take this 30 seconds to 1 minute. Something I can see, hear, smell, taste, touch. And he did that during the work hour, his work time when he noticed within just a few days how much calmer he felt. His schedule was still crazy. His clients were still really stressful and really hurting and really struggling, and their lives were a hot mess. But because he was training his brain to take a minute, just focus. Okay, I can do this. Take a minute, just focus. That actually helped him feel calm in the middle of that storm. So you don't have to like all of a sudden become this person who goes out and goes on yoga retreats and, is constantly happy all the time. No, just train your brain. That's what mindfulness is. Okay, let me double check. I've got, oh, I love it. I have my feet on the grass right now as I listen. I love it. Some people really strongly believe in, literal grounding, have your feet touching the ground on a daily basis. I love it. I wish I was there. I'm upstairs. I have wood floors under my feet. Also, remember the brain is a pattern seeking device. It takes time and repetition for you to build these new pathways in your brain, to build these new pathways to the calm down parts of your brain. You can't just wait till the crisis or the meltdown to use these strategies. Do a little bit every day. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to do a super quick boundaries explanation to help you also understand what boundaries are, because I always run over. I can't help myself, Erin. But remember, self-care is not optional. The best way to take care of the people who need you is to take care of yourself. You can't help others if you're not regulated. Think of yourself as a pitcher of water. So the water is how much I have of me to give away. So if I keep pouring out and pouring out and pouring out and I don't refill the pitcher, it will empty. It will go dry. That's not, doesn't mean you don't care. It means if you keep giving until you have nothing left to give, your body and your heart will force you through burnout to just say, I don't care anymore. And it's almost like your body's like, I have to survive. So self-care is not just like, oh, that's a luxury. It doesn't matter what situation you are in, you have to do self-care because you will burn out if you don't. Now, one more quick thing about boundaries, and I always try to put too many things that we can't do. So I'm going to send links to a lot of really good videos that I found. But a boundary is just a statement of what's okay and what's not okay. It's impossible for you to set a boundary for yourself and then also take responsibility for what someone else feels about that boundary. How they feel about it isn't my responsibility. When I say this is okay, this is not okay. If they are mad that you're saying that they can't keep doing something that you have said is not okay, their feelings are their feelings. It's not your responsibility. Now, I know we can feel bad or guilty about it. You know what that means? You're not a jerk. That's all that means. You're a caring human being and you really wish they didn't have bad feelings about it, but their bad feelings are not your responsibility. It's normal for people to push back. That's just human nature. And it depends on the time, the person, the place, right? These are going to adjust and change. It's not like a one size fits all. Boundaries are unique to different people. And think to yourself, what is your job today? What's in front of me today? You can't do all the things. No, the word no, I can't do that is a positive thing if it keeps you on the right track. Okay. So, um, here's what a boundary might sound like as a caregiver. Hey, I've got 10 minutes to meet and then I've got another commitment. I can work up until 10 o'clock, but I can't work past that. If someone keeps sending you stuff after that, I can work till 10, nothing past that. Hey, I'm not okay talking about this other person unless they're here in this conversation. I'm not answering my phone after 9 o'clock, but I'll respond in the morning. I'm on vacation. I will not be accessing my email. My son, one of my sons is so good at this. He has a work phone. In his first, pardon me, I didn't mean to snort. One of his first jobs as a 21-year-old, he has his work phone. And when he was off, he turned his work phone off. And one of his manager got really mad at him. You can't turn that thing off. He goes, I am not working. I am not looking at that. I am committed 100% when I'm on the job, but when I am not working, I am not available. And the manager kept trying to guilt him. And he's like, no, because if something happens and it's my day up, I'm not coming in on my day off. So I'm not going to answer emails. He was really good about those boundaries. Hey, I won't participate in the discussion this way. Someone starts yelling at me, I will not continue to talk with that tone of voice, and you can leave. All right. I'm not willing to do this, but I am okay to do that. Those are what boundaries sound like. Boundaries as a caregiver, people are going to want to take and take and take and take and take and take. It's okay for you to say, I can give this much, I can't give any more. You're allowed to do that. No can be a loving word. Hey, I'm not checking my email. I give myself a bedtime and I stick to it. When I'm feeling overwhelmed at work, I get rid of tasks instead of working longer hours. I prioritize. I'm like, I can do this up until I'm done. I can't do these other things. And here's another thing I don't do. I don't start conversations with difficult people if I don't have the emotional energy to endure that conversation. No, I will avoid you. No, I am not even going to do that to myself because some people take more out of you than other people. It's okay for you to say, nope, I am not going to have that conversation with you. Right. So you might be thinking to yourself, what's a good boundary I could set for myself as a caregiver? No is a loving word. That's all right. Now, I wish we had more time to spend on boundaries because so important. And there's a really good book called Let Them by Mel Robbins, the Let Them Theory, which is all about boundaries. There's also a really good book called Boundaries by Townsend and Cloud. And, this is where I struggled. As a caring, empathetic type person, I gave too much of myself away. It's also called being codependent. I was gifted at codependency. And I've really had to learn to change my thinking. So boundaries, circle of control, what's in your control, what's out of your control, that's going to help you as a caregiver not have burnout. All right. Now, of course, we could spend lots more time, but this hopefully gets a conversation started in your own head and a journey to what do I want to learn more about? Where am I struggling? So regularly check your compassion fatigue. You can take that quiz multiple times and see how you're doing. And the scores are trying to tell you the truth. All right. So listen to the scores, pay attention, take care of yourself if it's showing you're at risk. Make adjustments where you're spending your time and energy. Is that in your circle of control? Am I talking about, complaining about, focusing on things that I have no ability to change by talking, worrying, or focusing on them? Don't even give yourself away for that. Setting healthy boundaries is not uncaring. As a matter of fact, you're giving other people the opportunity to develop their own skill set and take care of themselves without being dependent on you to do it. You're literally giving them the opportunity to emotionally grow up. It's kind of loving. Okay. Combining those strategies can really help you care for other people without losing yourself. Okay. So the follow-up email will have this presentation. There were some videos embedded in it that I think you would enjoy watching that you can really sink into. I will also include links to the circle of control, the whole entire class. I will include links to the boundaries class that we did before. We did a whole class on the let them theory. I'll include links to that, as well as other handouts that might be helpful. Start small. You can't make big changes overnight. For every year you've been doing something, it might take a month to start to notice a difference. So if you've been giving yourself away for free for 10 years with no healthy boundaries, it might be 10 months before you start to see some changes. That's okay. That's all right. As long as we are making steps in this journey, it can be helpful for you in the long run. Okay. Um, Someone asked, who is the author of the book Boundaries? So there's a book called Boundaries um, by Townsend and Cloud. I don't remember their first names. So that book, Boundaries by Townsend and Cloud, is really good. And then the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins is really good and I actually follow Mel Robbins, her podcast, and I follow her on Instagram. She's got a lot of tidbits that really stop and make me think about things. I like how she says stuff, and I like how she's learning right along with you. So, hopefully, this was helpful to get you started on some things. And Erin mentioned some classes they'll be offering in the summer that are in the for through Oklahoma Family Network, and then we should start classes back up again in August or September on other topics. You're always welcome to email Erin when you get this presentation and stuff emailed to you saying, hey, do you have any information about this or that? Because I develop classes based on what people are asking about. So, Erin, is there anything that you would add for today?
No, I would just thank you again so much for your time, Lauren. I always write so many notes to learn so many things every time we hear you. So thank you, thank you. And yes, we'll be sending up a follow-up email. Please make sure you check out our podcast and our YouTube channel for all of Lauren's past. And again, like she said, if you have like Helping the Anxious Child or the 5 Love Languages of Children, if you listen to one of those YouTube videos and they resonate with you, just email Nancy and I. Nancy can send you that stuff in Spanish. I can send it to you in English. But we have that presentation. Like she said, she embeds so many stuff and handouts. So I have it all tied up. She puts it in a little package with a bow for us. So we appreciate you, Lauren. But again, reach out if you have anything, want emotional support, resource navigation, and everybody enjoy your night.